I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of hearing about change fatigue. So today we're going to flip the script and talk about change fitness. Because as we navigate the ever-changing tides of transformation with clarity and purpose, this is what you need. First, number one, we start with psychological safety. This is very much the bedrock of change fitness. When a team feels unsafe, their brains enter a fight or flight response. And actually, I'd add a third F, and that is freeze, making them resistant or simply just not able to take in any more new ideas. They don't actually fear change. They fear what the change will mean for them. Imagine change as a ship setting sail into uncharted waters without a clear destination, and that destination is the story. The crew get pretty anxious. They question the purpose of the journey, they question the credibility of the captain. But if the captain presents a vivid picture of the promised land, where they're going, golden shores, opportunity, prosperity, the crew become really invested in the mission. Change fatigue isn't just about people's workloads, it's about how we manage our energy. So leaders need to focus on creating rhythms that balance sprints of effort with periods of recovery. Just pick one. Pick one strategy, apply the first few steps, and observe the ripple effects that unfold. So what did you learn about what worked for your team, your department? Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of Future Fit with Friska. I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of hearing about change fatigue. So today we're going to flip the script and talk about change fitness. Because as we navigate the ever-changing tides of transformation with clarity and purpose, this is what you need. So today we're going to dive something deep into something I hear all the time from leaders and teams alike. We're exhausted from all the change. Change fatigue is real. It's that overwhelming. There's so many stories of burnout and resistance that sets in when you've had to adapt, pivot, rework so many times that you lose track. But here's the thing. What if I told you that change fatigue isn't inevitable? That with the right mindset, the right tools, and yes, the right leadership, we can turn that exhaustion into strength. We can morph change fatigue into change fitness. It's just like how you can train your body for resilience, for marathons. You can train your organization and your team for change resilience. So let's get straight into it. First, what is change fatigue and why does it matter? Let's unpack what we're talking about here. So change fatigue happens when teams of individuals feel overwhelmed by constant shifts in priorities, in processes, in structures. So research from Gallup indicates that employees today are on average experiencing 2.5 times more change at work compared to about a decade ago. So no wonder everybody's tired. And let me tell you, the consequences are very costly. You've got disengaged employees, you've got productivity that slows down, and you've got transformations that fail. But the good news is that this is not the end of the story. It's a warning sign. But it's also an opportunity. So what can we do about it? So next, I'm going to talk about the 5 strategies that you can use to build change fitness. First, number one, we start with psychological safety. This is very much the bedrock of change fitness. When a team feels unsafe, their brains enter a fight or flight response. And actually, I'd add a third F, and that is freeze, making them resistant or simply just not able to take in any more new ideas. Psychological safety means creating an environment where people feel safe to speak up, share concerns, and take risks without fear of judgment or retribution. You may have heard someone called Amy Edmondson. She's a Harvard professor. She's written a few books. She's the leading voice on psychological safety. So she emphasizes that teams with high psychological safety, they aren't just more innovative, they're more adaptable. And it makes sense. A study published in the Administrative Science Journal said that, people with psychologically safe teams, they reported more medical errors. but because they make more mistakes, not because they were willing to acknowledge and learn from them, right? So many people cover up their mistakes. Yes, it had more errors, but it showed that they were comfortable to tell people about it and to make sure to understand what they could learn from it so it never gets repeated again. Think of psychological safety like a safety net beneath a trapeze artist. Without the net, the performer clings to the bar and refuses to take risks. When they know it's there, they're free to leap, experiment, and grow. Here's a real-life example. Pixar has something called a brain trust session, and it's a great illustration of this principle. So in these meetings, filmmakers present rough versions of their projects to a trusted group of peers, and those peers provide candid feedback. The key is that the feedback focuses on the work, not the person, so it's not a personal attack. And this creates an environment where vulnerability leads to excellence. This culture has helped Pixar stay at the top of their game, and they have an extraordinary track record of blockbuster films. Right? Leaders need to model this vulnerability by admitting their own uncertainties. They must also actively encourage feedback and create an atmosphere where mistakes are reframed as learning opportunities and really mean it, right? Really mean it. The second strategy is to build a change narrative, not just any change narrative, but one that inspires and connects people. People, they don't actually fear change. They fear what the change will mean for them. So a clear and inspiring narrative transforms ambiguity into purpose, connecting the dots between individual contributions and the bigger picture. A McKinsey study found that organizations that link transformation initiatives to a clear narrative are 3.5 times more likely to succeed. This isn't just about jargon-filled memos. It's about creating a story that people can see themselves in. Imagine change as a ship setting sail into uncharted waters without a clear destination, and that destination is the story. The crew get pretty anxious. They question the purpose of the journey. They question the credibility of the captain. But if the captain presents a vivid picture of the promised land, where they're going, golden shores, opportunity, prosperity, the crew become really invested in the mission. Microsoft did this really well under CEO Satya Nadella. The change narrative was centered on empowering every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. They shifted from being product-driven to purpose-driven, and it was really effective. It revitalized morale and innovation within the company. Employees no longer saw themselves as just cogs in a machine, but as contributors to a larger mission. So craft a narrative that answers some of these key questions. Why are we changing? What's in it for me? What's in it for us? Tie the transformation to a sense of shared purpose, and you'll go so far. The third strategy, foster small wins to build momentum. Large-scale change can feel overwhelming, like trying to move a mountain, but breaking it into smaller, achievable wins builds confidence and keeps teams engaged. John Kotter, many would say he's the guru, the grandfather of change management, emphasizes the power of short-term wins in his 8-step process for change. Small wins create visible, measurable progress, which combats fatigue, and this in turn builds momentum. Behavioral scientists also argue that small victories create emotional rewards, reinforcing those desired behaviors that you seek. So think of climbing Everest. You don't fixate on the summit during every single step. You focus on reaching the next level, the next base camp. So each milestone rejuvenates the team, giving them the energy to keep pushing forward. When Procter & Gamble launched its sustainability initiative, it started with small visible projects like reducing packaging on a single product line. These wins built internal confidence and demonstrated that sustainability efforts could align with profitability. Over time, this momentum then fueled larger, more ambitious, more aggressive sustainability goals. So celebrate small milestones publicly, even if they seem really minor and unimportant to you. Each small win is a stone that paves the road to a greater transformation. The fourth strategy is equip your team with skills for change resilience. Change fatigue often arrives when people feel unprepared. Just like athletes train for a marathon, employees and leaders need the right tools and training to adopt new challenges. So according to Deloitte's Global Human-Centered Capital Trends report, 54% of employees will require significant reskilling by 2025. That is this year, due to technological advancements. Yet, only 10% of organizations feel that they can actually address that need, that they are actually prepared. Imagine giving someone a bicycle, but no training on how to ride it. They'll avoid using it out of fear, even if it's meant to improve their journey, get them to where they want to go faster. Change is different. Without proper training, people will feel lost and overwhelmed. Adobe is a standout here. So when the company transitioned to a subscription-based model for its Creative Cloud products, it didn't just tell employees to figure it out for themselves. They invested heavily in training programs, workshops, mentoring, lots of communication, helping the workforce adapt to the new approach. The result? Not only did Adobe thrive, but its employees became evangelists for their transformation. So invest in skill building initiatives that align with the change you're implementing. The more prepared your people will feel, the more confident they'll be in embracing and enacting the change that you seek. Last but not least, prioritize energy management over time management.
Are you leading change but constantly running into a brick wall of resistance? Maybe you've huffed and puffed, yet still not blown the house down. You are not alone. Resistance to change is one of the biggest roadblocks that leaders face. But it doesn't have to be. Imagine turning that resistance into momentum which drives you forward. That's exactly what my free 5-part mini course will help you do. It's called Shifting Resistance into Resilience, and in just 5 lessons, I'll walk you through proven strategies to break down those walls. You'll learn how to identify the root causes of resistance, engage your key stakeholders, yes, even the stubborn and loud ones, and build a culture that doesn't fatigue with change. It actually feasts on it. Sound good? All you need to do is click the link to get started, and the first lesson will be in your inbox. Don't let resistance render you powerless. Turn it into resilience that will push you forward.
Change fatigue isn't just about people's workloads. It's about how we manage our energy. So leaders need to focus on creating rhythms that balance sprints of effort with periods of recovery, right? Swings and roundabouts, ups and downs. The Energy Project found that employees who take breaks to recharge are 50% more engaged and 46% more satisfied with their jobs. In contrast, burnout rates soar when teams operate in always-on mode, right? Your phone and your computer shouldn't be always on, neither should your people. Breaks are necessary. Think of your team as a smartphone battery. You can't keep running apps at full speed without draining the charge. You need to unplug it and regularly recharge, or you risk your entire phone shutting down. So at Waterbomb Bali, the leadership team there incorporates energy rhythms into their operational culture. Team members alternate between high-focus tasks and creative restorative activities like brainstorming while walking through the lush water park. This approach not only reduces burnout, but it also helps with creativity. So encourage downtime and model healthy energy habits yourself. Leaders who prioritize balance give their teams permission to do the same. Change fitness isn't just a buzzword. It's a must in today's rapidly shifting world. With psychological safety, an inspiring narrative, small wins, the right skills, and energy management, you can help shift fatigue into resilience. Remember that change is less about surviving the storm, but it's more about learning to keep dancing and singing in the rain. I hear you, Friska, you say, but where do I start? It sounds easy, but it's a little bit more complicated. So what are those first steps? So now let's go through each strategy step by step and break down what you need to do first for each one. Let's expand further with detailed research and statistics and real-world examples to make your approach more robust. So again, let's start from the top, right? Psychological safety, the bedrock of change fitness. Here's some first steps in detail. Assess your baseline. Use tools like Google's Rework Guide or Amy Edmondson's organizational scan to quickly assess team psychological safety. Gallup surveys on workplace safety can also provide helpful benchmarks. Another strategy, host open forums. Start with informal, non-hierarchical discussions about workplace fears or stresses, encouraging transparency. If you're a leader, go first. You should role model this. Set feedback loops. Create anonymous feedback channels where employees feel empowered to raise concerns without fear of reprisal. A study by Google found that psychological safety was the most critical of the 5 key dynamics for effective teams. Teams that scored high, surprise, surprise, were 12% more likely to achieve their goals and deliver better performance. I'm sure many of you know Etsy. So Etsy, during their turnaround phase, the leadership implemented blameless postmortems to foster trust and create learning opportunities. So after a failure, employees analyze what went wrong without assigning blame at all, creating an atmosphere of experimentation. Psychological safety is like oxygen. Without it, people can't breathe freely at work. And when it's present, innovation thrives because employees feel more secure taking risks. Now we move on to the second step, and this is about building a change narrative that inspires and connects. The first steps here would be workshop the why. Organize brainstorming sessions to deeply explore why this change matters to different stakeholders, not just your employees, but customers and maybe partners too. Collect stories from the ground. Gather real-life anecdotes from employees about how the change aligns with their role or values or solves a problem that they face. Create visual and verbal tools. Right? Translate your narrative into visuals like videos or infographics that communicate the story in relatable words. Harvard Business Review notes that 70% of change programs fail because they don't have a clear and compelling communication program. A well-crafted narrative bridges this gap. When Airbnb faced criticism for its business practices, they recentered their narrative on their mission: belong anywhere. By sharing stories of hosts who created meaningful travel experiences, they rebuilt trust with their customers and their people. A great change narrative is very much like a North Star. It gives your team a clear sense of direction, no matter how many twists and turns the journey has. The next step was fostering small wins to build momentum. So the first steps here would be pilot a quick win. Start with one team, one department, roll out a small initiative that has a high likelihood of success. This could be a new productivity-based tool or maybe a workflow adjustment. Measure the impact. Define clear metrics, for example, time saved, and track them religiously to showcase the improvement. Celebrate publicly. Recognize the success through company-wide emails, meetings, or digital channels, linking them to the bigger picture vision. There was research done at Harvard that found that small wins boost motivation significantly. Teams that celebrated milestones, no matter how small, had higher overall job satisfaction and engagement. So do it. The research is there. Right? We go again to the Microsoft example. So something that Satya Nadella did when they began their cloud-first journey, they piloted smaller cloud projects within a few teams. These early wins built momentum, resulting in record cloud revenue growth and a renewed company culture. So remember, small wins are like planting seeds. Each success plants hope and possibility, fostering a forest of progress. The fourth step was equipping your team with the skills for change fitness. So the first steps here would be, conduct a learning needs assessment. Use tools like Skillset's competency mapping to identify where the gaps are and where the opportunities lie within your employees. Launch leader-led training. Start a train the trainer program where those who've successfully adapted lead workshops for others. Provide on-demand resources. Use platforms like, for example, LinkedIn Learning or Coursera to create a library of bite-sized courses your people can access anytime, anywhere. McKinsey's 2020 report on workforce reskilling found that 87% of executives see skill gaps as a major block to transformation. And companies that actually put their money where their mouth is and invest in upskilling have 60% higher employee retention. When AT&T realized its workforce lacked digital expertise, it locked a $1 billion Future Ready program to reskill employees for tech roles. This initiative not only bridged the skills gap, but also improved morale and retention. Now, you don't need to spend $1 billion, but you do need to do something to upskill and reskill your people. Training for resilience is like upgrading your car for rough terrain. Without it, your journey may break down at the very first bump. And the last strategy that we covered was to prioritize energy management over time management. So where do you start? First, audit employee energy flows. Ask people when they feel most productive and when their energy drops. You can use tools like the Energy Project Survey to assess. Maybe reorganize workflows, batch similar tasks together, and avoid scheduling high energy tasks during employees' energy valleys. Introduce team recharge rituals. Lots of companies are doing this. Establish regular wellness breaks like stretching sessions, meditation, walking meetings, whatever works for your organization and your culture. Deloitte found that 77% of employees experience burnout at their current job. And organizations that implement energy-based strategies, such as breaks and flexible hours, report 23% higher productivity. So at LinkedIn, for example, they implemented something called rest up days during the pandemic, which gave their people the space to recharge, leading to higher engagement scores in their next survey. It's also an example of prioritizing well-being at work. Imagine running a marathon without water breaks. Energy management ensures your team has enough fuel to cross the finish line. So here's where we start to bring it all together. These strategies are not just theoretical, they're actionable, evidence-based methods to help organizations move their change fatigue into change fitness. By focusing on psychological safety, storytelling, small wins, skill building, and managing energy, leaders can create a resilient culture that thrives no matter what the world throws at them. The most critical step here is simply starting. You don't need to do all 5 at the same time. Just pick one. Pick one strategy, apply the first few steps, and observe the ripple effects that unfold. So what did you learn about what worked for your team, your department, your organization? Can you apply these learnings across other areas of the business? Change might be daunting, but with the right guidance, tools, and mindset, it's not only achievable, it is very much transformative. So if you're unsure where to begin, partnering with a change expert like myself can make the process smoother and more impactful. So let's turn those challenges into opportunities together. If you need support guiding your organization through this change journey, I'd be honored to help light the way. So I'm simply a DM away. Till then, thank you again for tuning to another episode of Future Fit with Friska, and I look forward to hearing about your stories of shifting fatigue into fitness.